realized something, that when I started giving a tour of my apartment, I realized that I had been in Xiaolan for a year and a half, and I'm about to leave, and I've never really filmed a walkabout of Xiaolan. Of course, I've walked all over the town. It's not big, but I've never shared it with you guys. So I thought, I have a day off. It's a mellow day. I'm not going downtown, so why don't I just film it? And every Chinese city, again, that I go to has two parts. It usually has an old part and a new part. And of course, I spend most of my time in the new part. It's where my office is, and that's where, you know, the Starbucks is and the Burger King. And then there's an older part on the other side of the town with rivers. It's a lot more condensed, and it's just better for walkabout. So I'm going to go there today and check it out. But first, of course, I'm going to grab my morning Starbucks, because I'm an American nerd like that, and there's just something about going to Starbucks in the morning that's, because it gives me a little taste of home. So if you go just a couple of blocks down from my apartment, you have the wet market part of town. Behind me is the main river for Xiaolan, and back in the day, you can see a lot of boats going back and forth in order to deliver the foods to the wet market. But now everything's done by trucks and motorbike taxis, it seems. I actually never shop in the wet market. I mean, you can get things pretty cheap here, but it just seems like it's, you know, I don't know, not as safe, not as clean as opposed to, say, the supermarket. And it's a lot less busier here. I mean, the supermarkets are a lot busier. As you can see, driving along the river, this is actually kind of the center artery for Xiaolan, with all the shops on the left. And then up here you turn left, and it goes into more of the older business district and residential district. Over here to the right is another farmer's market, just on the other side of that bridge. You can shop at the farmers markets, they're fine. I just don't trust the cleanliness of them, especially when you have the supermarket for just a little bit more money. This is what the main business district in Xiaolan looks like, the older town. And of course, along this road, you've got these little alleyways that go off in random places where you just get lost in the neighborhoods. And along this street, you've got every kind of shop you can think of. Phone shops, you've got little clinics and pharmacies, a few hotels, clothing, cakes, tailors, supermarkets, jewelry stores, coffee shops, tea houses, all kinds of noodle restaurants, appliances, you name it, hardware store, they got it all here. So you can walk down this street. Of course, most people prefer to go to the mall these days because of the air conditioning. But there's something about these older part of town that is just a lot better for walkabout, to explore, to enjoy a beautiful summer day. Tucked away behind some of the alleyways and away from the main cities is the more older town of Xiaolan that's kind of hidden, and it's actually very peaceful back in here, except for all the motorbike taxis that go around. They should outlaw honking. So I'm in the oldest part of the town right now. This is one of the old stages in the village square, basically the center of Old Town, where the whole town really started. Yeah, but if you walk this way and through some of the older buildings in town, it's actually kind of a peaceful little village. It's got public restrooms. And you walk down here, to the right is a museum, to the left is a tea house. This is the old government building. This tea house I've actually been to. It doesn't look open. It looks like it's closed down, but it was actually really nice, kind of a cat cafe almost. But let's go in the museum, check it out. It's an old bed. Not much in terms of lighting for this little kitchen. Compared to other cities in China, of course, Xiaolan's pretty young. But for an American, where everything, especially in California, where everything is less than 200 years old, Xiaolan is kind of ancient. More of the old village square. They continue to try and gentrify it, but it's slowly gaining speed. The reason is because it's so far from the main drag. And of course over there is the river where the boats would stop and bring everything to the center court. And then this is the old government building. There's absolutely no infrastructure for foreigners. Everything, of course, is for Chinese and the local people. This museum is wide open. There's no curator or guard or anybody here to greet me. You just walk right in. I kind of dig that. These stairs are so old and worn, it's almost like a ramp. They're not really stairs at all. Of course, everywhere you go, you run into little children who want to say hello to you, but that's really the only English that they know. That and where are you from? It's summertime, so many of the schools, the grass is overgrown. They'll cut it back when school starts in a couple of weeks. Remember how I said Xiaolan was a rich town? Well, this is the uptown part. You've got these big fancy gates with a giant house behind the walls, big walls with, you know, spikes and barbed wire and cameras. And as you can see, they got cameras and security systems galore on these giant villas. A whole street full of them. Over here they're going to build another one right next to these. These are one house, mind you. And as the rich get richer, they make their houses even bigger. And they expand on it. They buy their neighbor's house and then just build more. It's actually very impressive. But believe it or not, even in a small town like this, land is at a premium. So there are no gardens. These are just one house after another, similar to what it is back home in LA, but no front yard and no backyard, just wall-to-wall house. Here's one behind me. This one here. They bought their neighbor's house and are expanding to this side over here. Pretty impressive. You know what's crazy is I rarely see people in these giant houses. They just keep building and adding onto them, but I don't think anyone actually lives in them, or at least very few people do. And you cross over to the river and you got many of the older parts of town that are considerably older, a lot more blue collar. I don't want to say poor, but that's pretty much what it is. Looks like a new business has opened up. Some kind of children's school or kindergarten. Very cool. I love these older neighborhoods in Xiaolan. They're just quaint and peaceful. You know, many Chinese don't want to live in these older homes, but it's funny, back in America, we would pay extra to live in these older neighborhoods with this age and history to it, I think. I think it's really beautiful and peaceful. Over to the newer side of town and the streets are a little wider, the shops are a little newer, there's much more space, more parking, but still remains somewhat quaint with the trees and, you know, all the mom and pop shops and restaurants. I really dig it. It's a beautiful little town. You can look behind me. This is downtown Xiaolan, or Dafuyan. It's not far from my apartment. So that's my little tour of Xiaolan. It was a beautiful day to ride around and